It's great to be here with you. I don't get out very much. In fact, nobody gets out very much. So I've made an effort. I've put a tie on tonight. And for those people who are worried about my poem today, I am wearing trousers. I may prove that at some point. And the thing is, I'm sat here in the back bedroom performing these poems for you. And I'm going to do today's poem as a starting point before we delve into can of worms. And I could be in my slippers, but the thing is, I can't perform in my slippers. Strange, isn't it? You know, so I've put proper footwear on, so I can't perform in my slippers, which is a phrase many of us have heard in different circumstances, but that's a different matter. Anyway, first poem tonight. So thank you for joining us. I can't see you. You can see me. And the other thing is, I can't see you if you decide to go. It's not like a live gig where, you know, if you go to the toilet, you get picked on. I can't see anybody. I can't see the comments until later on. So if you do decide to go, that's fine. It's all taken on trust. I suppose it's a bit like Hotel California. You can check out anytime you want and you can leave. Can I just say before we start as well that those people who comment on a daily basis and those people who share and have bought the books, thank you so much. It has been brilliant. I've really missed performing live. I've really missed the audience and that response to a poem when you perform it. And I suppose in a way, what you do every day when you like or you make a comment, and some of you do comment every day, and I really appreciate that. That's like a virtual applause. Anyway, I should start. A reason to put my trousers on. Most days are pajama days. No reason to head out at all. Not so splendid isolation stuck inside these same four walls. But today I have a meeting, Zoom at 1:30, giving me a reason to put my trousers on. Another day I didn't shave, no going out to work. Another day in slippers and a setting in a school, I'll best not get it wrong, giving me a reason to put my trousers on. The bookcase right behind me in this upstairs room, but it's only head and shoulders when it's Teams or Zoom. But I don't want to stand up, shocking everyone, giving me a reason to put my trousers on. I'm watching too much football now and all sorts of sports. It doesn't mean I have to walk around in shorts. No one needs to see my knees or cast their gaze upon, yes, giving me a reason to put my trousers on. No one needs to see my socks, given half a chance, even less than that when it comes to underpants. Should I choose the white fronts or that purple thong, giving me a reason to put my trousers on. The first poem. And the more observant amongst you will have realised that behind me, there is a pair of white fronts, a pair of big red white fronts. And when I first started as a poet 30 years ago, and as many of you know, most of my work has been in schools, I had an alter ego, the amazing Captain Concord. I invented a superhero. In fact, my first ever children's book is The Amazing Captain Concord. That's in there. And on the back, there's even a little mistake where his arm is white and the rest of it is pink. Anyway, it all started when I found a plastic nose, a plastic Concorde nose, and I thought that'd be funny. So I thought I could invent a superhero character called Captain Concord. So I got this one nose and I thought, superheroes, they always have a big pair of underpants. That'll be a good joke. That'll be great in front of 350 kids on a Monday morning in a school. A poet putting his pants on and then taking them off. So I live in Retford in North Nottinghamshire, and at that point there was a shop. Now, imagine Greenwoods, but for people older than Greenwoods. It was that type of men's outfitters. I remember going in and I said, can I have the biggest pair of red white fronts you've got, please? And this gentleman, who would be about 86, said, Superman, are you? And I said, well, something like that. He said, well, I've got these. He says, the size 42. I said, that'll do me. He says, they should be $4.99, but they're 99p. I said, great. He says, in fact, I've only got 5 pairs left. I said, do you know what? I'll take all 5 pairs. Can you write me a receipt? Because they're tax deductible. So I've got tax deductible underpants. And then I was worried, you see, that I have, various pairs of these. They are well worn, aren't they? Really well worn. Lots of usage in a school. That doesn't sound right, but you know what I mean. And but I was then worried that if I lost the Concorde nose, what would happen to the act, Captain Concorde? And about, I say, 25, 30 years ago, my mother and father-in-law went for a day out in Skegness. I don't know why. He went for a day out in Skegness. And excuse me. And I just said, look, if you go to any joke shops, if you see any plastic noses, get me them. And when we got a phone call, obviously before mobile phones, from a phone box, and Julie, my mother-in-law, said, I found a shop. How many do you want? I said, oh, get as many as you can. They got back later on that day and said, oh, we bought 5. We bought 5 of them. They only had 5 in stock. And the bloke said, we've never sold 5 before. What on earth do you want 5 of those noses for? And she said the classic phrase, it's my son-in-law. He's in show business. Or in our case, show off business. But anyway, little story about the underpants. I am wearing trousers. So, rooting around my room before I came, I did find this actually, a signed photograph of Ken Dodd. That's not an indication of the length of the show, or is it? You can check out anytime you want. So we're going to go to Can of Worms. And like I say, I'm really proud of what this collection's turned into. When I started doing this nearly a year ago, the 23rd of March, is when we started last year, obviously. I just wrote a poem a day because I noticed Chris Riddell, who ended up doing the illustrations for Fighting Talk, was doing a cartoon a day. He's just released a book, actually, of his cartoons, if you're interested. Buy this first. I've got him left. You can buy his. It'll be more expensive because it's colour and hardback, probably. But I suddenly had time on my hands, and I thought, I'll write a poem every day. Never thinking that here we are nearly a year later, and if I look at the, that's poem 357. 357 points. Now, I've written more than that, as we'll come on to later on. Never thinking it would turn into something that would be a daily commitment and then turn into 2 books. So when this book arrived, I always get excited when a new book arrives. So this is Can of Worms. If you've got it already, thank you so much for buying it and for buying Fighting Talk. This is the first poem. Strangely enough, actually, it's called Dear Prime Minister, and I don't think I actually shared this poem as a daily poem. It's one of those poems that I wrote, and it could have been any time, and then it sort of missed its time because other things happened. So it became like a spare, but it seemed like the right poem to put at the beginning of here. Dear Prime Minister, I shan't call you Boris, as people may think that implies some sort of friendship. And I shan't refer to you as Mr, as that signifies respect. In fact, I think I'll leave out the dear too. So, Prime Minister, you had a chance, a real once-in-a-lifetime chance. You could have united the nation with decisive leadership, direct, immediate action, a brave and direct approach, but you just couldn't do it. You could have led the way from a position of authority and majority, built a legacy, something memorable, left your opponents way behind. Imagine if you had reached out to the NHS and beyond, publicly praised them, all as jewels in our crown, and backed it up with appropriate budgets and wage structures. In making them heroes, you would have yourself been the hero maker. You could have been honest about your chief advisor's lies. You could have sacked him and gained a nation's respect. You could have brought people together, done all this and more. That door was open for you, but you did it, and ahed, blustered, and ultimately said nothing of note. It took a young footballer to teach you empathy, heart, and compassion. Prime Minister, that could have been you. Prime Minister, that should have been you. You could have been remembered as the People's Prime Minister, who showed the way in difficult times, led us, dare we say it, in unprecedented times. You even survived the virus. You could have been a national hero. You had your chance. Amidst this can of worms, you had your chance. yet you could not take it. You could not do it. Yes, Prime Minister, you blew it. Thank you. I'm presuming you're applauding now. Obviously, every poem could be a negative poem about the Prime Minister or the government or Donald Trump or whatever, but I wanted to sort of make sure that I didn't get into just doing that, the moaning side of it. I know there's lots to moan about and lots to be depressed about, as the poems reflect, but I wanted to make sure that for those people who are partaking every day, it was maybe something different, or it took you somewhere else. So I decided to write different styles of poems. And this one is a sonnet for the creatives, a sonnet in praise of creatives, an ode to creatives in bardic form. And some of those creatives, and indeed some of these rhymes, I'll refer to and return to later on. So this is a sonnet. Forget not the creators of diversions, those that lift our spirits and our hearts. In the spotlight or behind the curtains, appreciate all artists and their arts. The singers of the songs and all the dancers, those who have the gift for joy and laughter, the writers of the stories that entrance us. Once upon a time, happy ever after. Poets and the playwrights and musicians, those who paint and sculpt and all the actors, make-believe reality magicians who entertain, inspire and distract us. Cherish them for bringing us together, for now is the time we need them more than ever. And in a way, that's absolutely true. And like I say, this theme of creatives and actors and musicians we'll return to a little bit later on. What usually happens when I'm writing these poems is the night before, or sort of late afternoon, I start thinking about, obviously with the news, you see what's on the news, and then sometimes I have no idea until I get up in the morning, and then something happens. You look at the news and something's happened. And on the 11th of the 7th, 2020, Jack Charlton passed away. And for those of us of a certain generation, the Charlton brothers, and indeed football of that era, meant a lot. So this is quite a personal poem called The Name Says It All. Charlton, a word synonymous with football, World Cups and glory. For a certain age, a name that means so much, we may think of Bobby first, but always, always think of Jack in a heartbeat. We may have wanted to play like Bobby, but most of us related to Jack. Endeavour, commitment and fight. We could all be a bit like him. Big Jack at the back knew his place. Big Jack at the back did his job. Big Jack at the back, no one passed. Big Jack at the back, you'd want him on your side. He once said, I couldn't play, but I could stop others from playing. Not true, but true. Uncompromising, straightforward and honest. My dad always called him Giraffe Neck. And if Dad thought he was a good one, then he was. In an age where heroes were ordinary, Big Jack was just that, but so much more. One-man club, total legend, 773 appearances. Loved by those who play with him, loved by those who play for him. The footballer's footballer, loved by football fans everywhere. Jack Charlton. The name says it all. This poem is called A Strong and Sincere Hope, because at one point that's all we had. And our esteemed Prime Minister, Mr. Johnson, I'll quote, "It is my strong and sincere hope that we will to review the outstanding restrictions to allow more significant return to normality from November at the earliest possible in time for Christmas." This was in July. Okay. And I thought we need more than a strong and sincere hope. Hence this poem. A strong and sincere hope that Everton will rise again, invincible in every game, eclipse past glories with new fame. A strong and sincere hope that Noddy, Jimmy, Dave and Don will reunite for one last song and once again be number one. a strong and sincere hope that lottery numbers all come up. England win the next World Cup. 1 million sales. Or this book. A strong and sincere hope that Donald finds humility and Boris finds some honesty and we all live in harmony. A strong and sincere hope. All the odds against are stacked. None of these are based on fact. Impossible to be exact. A strong and sincere hope. None of us know what's in store. The future may be insecure, but we deserve so much more than a strong and sincere hope. The next poem really is, well, the next couple of poems actually are quite personal ones in the sense that I'm based in Retford, but you can tell from my accent I'm not from Retford, I'm from Lancashire. And my brothers and sisters live in that part of the world, as does my mother. And hadn't seen her for a long time. This hasn't helped. Over 100 miles away. There were tears. Inevitably, we couldn't resist the need to embrace. Inevitably, we felt guilty and awkward in the current climate. Inevitably, we drove past crowded beer gardens where people neither felt guilty or awkward. Inevitably. And therein lies some of the problems. As I said before, sometimes I wake up and I don't really know what I'm going to be writing about. Nothing much has happened in the news that hasn't happened before. And the next couple of poems I wrote actually on the morning when I woke up. And this was in August, the 4th of August, actually. This one's called Noises Off. And because the mornings were so light, I'd wake up early and I'd go downstairs, and I've got a little den outside in the garage where I could sit and write or have a cup of tea or whatever, or sometimes sit outside. But I woke up very early and there was a banging. Hence this poem. There's a tap dancing albatross on my roof. Not really, although I haven't actually checked. But it's a good opening line for a poem. Awoken early, very early, by noises off that sound like the above. Either that, or the mice have got hobnail boots and are playing football with a crabapple. Early morning house silence amplifies all sound. As the squirrel with the lump hammer adjusts the chimney breast and rearranges several tiles. Maybe it's not actually outside. Perhaps there's a party in the loft and head-banging bats are bouncing off beams while biting the heads off jelly babies. A cup of tea later, the noises have stopped. The house has woken. And I have this poem. I'll go outside to welcome the day. I look up. An albatross flies off and tap dancing shoes fall with a percussive flourish. Early. In my back garden, the early birds are catching worms. 2 magpies, a baby blackbird and a sparrow, to be exact. At the kitchen table, the early poet has finished in the bathroom, had 2 rounds of toast and is on his 2nd cup of tea. He's also admiring his shed, the one he painted yesterday while listening to Test Match Special. Willow, to be exact, or light green as we know it. There is paint left over, so he is considering painting the gate, the same shade of light green. Waste not, want not, eh? The early poet is catching words, and just like the paint pot, there are some left over. Save them for another poem. I do love the drawing that Martin has done. In fact, I love all Martin's drawings. Martin Chatterton is a fantastic illustrator, and we've got lots of projects working on together. But I'm so pleased he's done the cover and the illustrations for this book. Really, really pleased. This next poem is called "Not an Invasion," and I think it was the I'm trying to find the right word to describe him. The being that is Nigel Farage, who seems to get an inordinate amount of airtime for somebody who's never been voted anywhere. But he was quoted, or I saw a quote where he referred to refugees and the fact that the refugees, it was an invasion. I thought, invasion? Is that really the word that you want to use? We found them on our beaches. We found them on our sands. They came across our waters. They came from distant lands. They didn't come with malice or detailed battle plans. They didn't come with treaties, ultimatums and demands. They didn't come with guns or weapons in their hands. They came with all the problems we do not understand. They came with desperation, nothing underhand. In fact, they came with nothing, each woman, child and man. An invitationless visit. But that's not an invasion though, is it? Whatever it is, the situation, whatever it is, it's not an invasion. Take that etymology from the equation. It's not an assault or attack on our nation. No onslaught that's evil or slight infiltration. No violent offensive and no violation. Maybe an act of sheer desperation. Whatever it is, it's not an invasion. So let's be clear and explicit. That's not an invasion though, is it? As I've mentioned, there are some people who sort of follow this every day, and people say, "Oh, you write a poem about this," or "That'd be a good idea for a poem." And a friend of mine, Karen James, I don't know if you were watching Karen or tuning in at any point, but she sent me a couple of headlines, and this was "Biting spiders in your home, and they're looking for sex." So hand-sized biting spiders in your home, and they're looking for sex. What a great headline, hence this poem. There's a danger that is stranger than the truth. Amorous arachnids are descending from the roof. Guarantee revulsion to make you nervous wrecks. Hand-sized biting spiders in your home, and they're looking for sex. Don't be left alone when inside your empty room. Turn on all your lights and illuminate the gloom. Look behind each cushion, be careful with your checks. Hand-sized biting spiders in your home, and they're looking for sex. Fatal when they mate, beware of that attraction. You'll get so much more than a chemical reaction. Taken unawares, beware the side effects. Hand-sized biting spiders in your home, and they're looking for sex. So seal up all the buttons on your shirts and on your blouses. Check the sheets and pillows in the bedrooms of your houses. Sellotape into your socks the legs of all your kecks. Northern rhyme there. Hand-sized biting spiders in your home, and they're looking for sex. If you feel a tickle that is rising near your thigh, do not scream or groan, and certainly don't sigh. Some things will start to shrink as others start to flex. Hand-sized biting spiders in your home, and they're looking for sex. This 8-legged groove machine, these arthropods on heat, these swingers on their threads of lust spinning their deceit, more than just a love bite when they peck upon your necks. Hand-sized biting spiders in your home, and they're looking for sex. Action first and fast when they start to maneuver. Be ready with the feather duster, ready with the hoover. Decisive and incisive, ensure there'll be an X. Hand-sized biting spiders in your home, and they're looking for. Did you join in with the word? Just as a little aside there, that's the fantastic picture that Martin did. And when he first sent it through, I hadn't noticed. Paul flagged up the fact that the original picture, the spider had got 9 legs. So Martin quickly Photoshop one out, or whatever he did in an artistic way. And did you spot the Wonder Stuff reference in that particular poem? 8-legged groove machines, of course it was. Okay. Now the next poem, we suddenly found, because sometimes I wrote more than one poem a day, so it wasn't quick. It wasn't specifically poem one on the first day of and you know, when I get to 23rd of March, it might not be poem 365, because some days I wrote 2 poems or 2 short ones or whatever. And there was one poem I started at the beginning of this lockdown. I think it was April, and then it never got finished. And then putting this book together, and we'd sort of moved a couple of poems around to make spaces for illustrations and things like that. And we found we got one poem in twice, and the numbering was wrong. We suddenly needed an extra job on the checkout, and she got it. So she got a job and I was rejected. Hence, Rejected by Morrison's bonus poem. That Morrison's job, long since rejected. Failed application, never selected. Time on the hands, once unexpected. A daily routine, long since neglected. A poem a day, a routine perfected. About the infected and all those affected, or feeling let down by those we elected, a diary of thoughts and feelings dissected. All the poems later, shared and connected, 2 books and counted, 2 books and counting, verses collected. There we are. So brand new poem there. Okay. Like I say, if you have got any questions later on, then I'll do my best to answer them, or I'll just talk so long that it sort of lulls you into submission and you think, it's gone on so long, we need to go. Again, this poem could have been written any day, but it needs to be said. It's called You Give Incompetence a Bad Name. It starts with a word that we've used so many times. Unprecedented, maybe, but now it's been so long. We've had this situation and still you get it wrong. Not a trace of track and trace, and you won't take the blame. You give incompetence a bad name. Every day is the same. You huffing, puffing, bluffing. And when all is said and done, it all adds up to nothing. Hello, darkness, my old friend. Here we are again, because you give incompetence a bad name. Promises and policies from when you were elected. The goalposts have been moved just as we expected. The Brexit exit voted just hasn't stayed the same, because you give incompetence a bad name. Bereft of moral fibre and bereft of any vision. The inconsistencies to stick to a decision. A catalogue of chances missed exists to prove this claim, because you give incompetence a bad name. What next for Great Britain? We haven't got a clue. Bad news for everyone. The same is true of you. In conclusion, more confusion destined to remain, because you give incompetence a bad name. And the next point really, it sort of starts with social media, because obviously I've been posting these on Facebook, so the likes of yourselves have been sort of responding to them on Facebook, which is absolutely brilliant. And then I suppose the other side of it is you interact with people you don't expect to interact with. And some of you might have heard of a man called Glenn Matlock. Glenn Matlock was once of the Sex Pistols, and he actually interacted with me. And I think as a result of this poem here, which I'm going to read now, it's called The Forgotten. All right, it's called The Forgotten. And it's about all those with the performing arts. And I mentioned those before, and I said I'd come back to them. And obviously in this particular time, and these particular times I should say, these are some of the people who've been left behind, as indeed many, but certainly the performing industry. Pervades all the actors and performers, all who entertain and warm us, those who tour, those who've played every venue, every stage, those who roll and those who rock, all those folk who've had to stop, those who gig most every night and now they just cannot. Those who took the center stage, those behind the scenes who've made all the props and all the sets, painted backdrops and effects, costumiers, makeup appliers, those who lug the amplifiers, plug in plugs, rewire the wires, backstage drinks and food suppliers, those who drive the bands and who shouting mics 1 2 1 2, those who tune and chase the strings, a million other unseen things, those who rap and those who rhyme, dames dressed up in pantomime, chorus singers, all the dancers, extras waiting for the chances, thespians and fools and clowns who nightly broke those curtains down, musicians, every style and persuasion, every genre and occasion, those who rock and those who roll, lift the spirits, feed the soul, cherish theatre and live music. If we don't protect it, then we'll lose it. Talking of music, and as Paul mentioned earlier on, I am the poet laureate for Slade because Noddy Holder once said so, so it must be true. And on the 24th of the 9th, the latest incarnation of Slade's greatest hits came out. So obviously, you know, September, it's nearly Christmas, isn't it? So hence a little poem. It's called "It Must Be Nearly Christmas." If that kipper tie still fits, and you'd like a glam rock blitz, all the glitter, all the glitz, all the misspelt hits and bits, stomp those platform boots, cause it's Slade's new Come On Feel the Hits. And there we are, a magnificent platform shoe drawn by the equally magnificent Martin Chatterton. Anyway, so here we are, and we've got all this time into this performance, and we've not got a poem about Donald Trump, and yet 2 on the go. And this first one was called "Because You're Worth It," when his tax return came back and they found out how much he'd spent on his hair. He'd spent a lot of money on his hair, and you think, really? Because you're worth it. Donald's done his taxes, and the fact is they are true. 70 grand a year, and that's the best that you can do. What should have been your pride of place and your crowning glory, Lordy darn it, with that barnet, you're the clown in every story. With that coiffure, not so sure you'd survive a windy day. Is that blonde mop the best you've got, or just a higher price to pay? I really like that joke. I'll do that line again. Is that blonde mop the best you've got, or just a higher price to pay? You put the style in style. It's also tax deductible. At 70 grand a year, it should be indestructible. You don't need a barber, a stylist, or beautician. With hair like that, sir, what you need is Merlin, the magician. Thank you. And then, of course, he got COVID, didn't he? And I wrote a poem called "Sympathy for the Devil," because I actually felt sorry for COVID. Hence this poem. Great picture there. Talking of Donald and his hair. There's a picture of Donald on a sort of COVID-style space hopper with a cat on his head, which I thought was a great drawing from Martin there. Positives are negative, but we can make an exception. Positively negative concerning the election. For presidential evidence, it may not be a coma, but Donald's been infected, and I feel sorry for Corona. How this came to be may remain a mystery, but obviously more positive than anyone in history. More positively positive, the biggest virus owner, Donald's been infected, and I feel sorry for Corona. Oh, irony of ironies, this potential re-electant. And now it is a virus that is craving disinfectant. And bleach that will beseech be a healer and a toner. Donald's been infected, I feel sorry for Corona. All that hate and bigotry and everything that's mean, mutating with the germs and strains in COVID-19. The outcome's looking ugly for this presidential moaner. Donald's been infected, I feel sorry for Corona. Pride that comes before a fall, but not a fall from grace. For grace is not an issue, you are never in that place. Humility and dignity for you, it's a misnomer. Donald's been infected, I feel sorry for Corona. Self-isolation, 14 days. Let's hope that's a beginning. With luck, it could be longer, then everyone is winning. Now hope the Twitter feed from the serial mobile phoner. Donald's been infected, and I feel sorry for Corona. A nation's national health and security has been breached. Indestructible, untouchable, the white whale has been beached. Repercussions rumble from New York to Arizona. Donald's been infected, and I feel sorry for Corona. I mentioned Glenn Matlock of the Sex Pistols, and he retweeted a couple of my tweets, and which was great, because you're thinking, you know, who'd have thought all those years ago, you know, in 1976 and 1977, when the Sex Pistols came and blew the music scene apart, and that, you know, he'd been some way connected to something I do. So I was cheeky, and I said, I sent him a direct, you know, or I referred to him on Twitter and said, you know, dear Glenn, can you please follow me back with something I'd like to ask you? And he, you know, smiley face, thumbs up, says, I followed you, thinking, great, we've got to be best Twitter mates now. And so I messaged him and said, I'm doing this book of poems, of which you'll be referenced, because I've written a poem about you. Would you like to do a quote for it? Nothing. So I left it a month or two. I thought, perhaps he's forgotten. And when putting this together, I thought, I'll try again. Still nothing. So, you know, Glenn, thank you for retweeting, but we're not Twitter mates after all. But I did get a poem out of it, which I'm going to read. It's called On the Same Page as Certain Mr. Matlock. So a little slip of Coca-Cola first. You may sort of you may sort of anticipate some of the rhymes here anyway, but never mind. First it was Slade, then it was Sweet, then you and the damned, neat, neat, neat. As past and present become complete, an ex-Sex Pistol retweeted my tweet. I quoted you, now it's you to repeat the words I wrote about the elite. As punk, rock and poetry meet, and an ex-Sex Pistol retweeted my tweet. Those in power turn up the heat on artists as they tried to compete. Live music, dead on its feet. And an ex-Sex Pistol retweeted my tweet. Never mind their ballots, their deceit. No surrender, no defeat. Long live the arts, our heartbeat. An ex-Sex Pistol retweeted my tweet. I'm going to do one more poem, and then we're going to have time for a few questions. And I've got a couple of poems just to finish off with. So that's how it's got to work. So following on from sort of the arts and Glenn Matlock and the Sex Pistols, and you know, sort of the forgotten, we did have that situation where the Chancellor was saying that perhaps people should retrain. Perhaps musicians and artists should retrain and do something else. You know, I tried to retrain. I tried to go to Morrison, but I got rejected, as you found out. So I thought, what would happen if some of the acts retrained? What would they do? Hence this poem called "Living the Retraining Scheme Dream." Stormzy is serving in Subway. Adele's on the checkout at Asda. Ed Sheeran is now a lollipop man, stopping the cars, driving faster. Take that, our delivery drivers. Dua Lipa is now a barista. Paloma Faith is now the new face at Boots selling stuff to your sister. Jagger and Richards, a firm you can trust for all your botanical needs. Jeff Lynne and Co, the new ELO, electric light offers in Leeds. Ozzy is now in the priesthood. His confessions are better than yours. Macca's a driver for Saga, organising OAP tours. Harry has opened his new hairy styles. Morris is serving in Greggs. Bono's now a beautician, doing backsack and crack with the edge. That's not an image you want, really, is it? But there we go. The Arctic Monkeys delivered to Iceland. Tom Jones is at B&Q. So is Rod Stewart and Brian May. Cliff Richard is helping there too. Phil Collins is now a chauffeur here and there. His car, he'll expertly park it. Lewis Capaldi is managing Albi's Sting selling pants down the market. Little Mix now serve fish and chips. Not really got the X factor. Shirley Bassey is looking less classy on a massive Ferguson tractor. Boy George is building up burgers on an M62 service station. Shane McGowan's a railway announcer. Ollie Murs now works in healthcare. Clapton is now a mechanic. Elton has got his own bar. Brothers are plumbers. Do you really want them near your drain? Rishi is singing the blues. It's what happens when we all retrain.